Sheepy Doodlers, how are you doing? I've got 5 days or something left to finish this project. On one of these videos I was talking about paper and how I have a secret supply of stuff called CS2, which they haven't made for a very long time. And I was saying how, you know, I save every little bit of it, and this kind of proves it here. So I'm using a tiny little piece of paper here to draw just this little illustration here. And so some people are going to be going, oh my god, he's tracing. And this is something I come back to quite often. I'm a great believer in tracing. Some people on YouTube are obsessed with tracing. It's cheating, it's cheating. And what they mean is that it's cheating because you're copying. And I am copying. I'm copying something that I've spent a lot of time thinking about and designing and reorganizing and shaping and getting. So I know that this is going to fit exactly in where the text is, and this is exactly how I want it. And I've done all the drawing, and now I'm doing this final bit of drawing so that onto watercolour paper so that I can paint it. So this is the final stage of the process, and it's a refining process, and that's what it's all about. And it took me years to work this out. So you know, when in the old days, that's that one done. In the old days, then I'm just going to zoom out a bit probably here. Oh, no, I've got it set for, yeah. In the old days, when I were a lad, and at art school, then we were taught religiously, you must stretch your watercolour paper, and that meant soaking it in the bath, getting it really, really wet, and then you kind of stick it on. And it was like almost like a religious ceremony. And we would then sort of pat it down with towels. So I would have special clean towels, and then pat it down and get it dry and nice and flat. And then we had gummed paper tape, and we would tape that down. And had almost like a little religious ceremony just for doing that. And so and then I kept finding that the paint wouldn't do what I wanted to, and so of course also you haven't got any drawing on this, so having drawn the thing, then you had to sort of get the drawing on there, and it had to fit exactly to the rough sketches that you had done. And so yeah, it's really tricky doing this talking and drawing at the same time. So you had I lose the thread of what I'm talking about. So you would and I'm sort of slightly adapting as I'm going along. Yeah, so you would sort of tape this all down, and then you'd kind of maybe leave it 24 hours to dry or something. So it was a real process. And so what I would then do is then I would have the rough sketch, or the finished sketch even, and I would then I would trace that onto old-fashioned tracing paper, which some people may never have come across in their lives, and then I would trace that through onto the drawing, and then I might have to kind of do a bit of redrawing to make it a bit clearer, and then I would do the final ink on the top, and then I'd have to erase the all the pencil lines. And what I found was, because the paper had been soaked like that, when you started rubbing the surface would get all scuffed, and it was just horrible. And you know, and some papers were worse than others, and it depended on batches and all sorts of stuff. And sometimes you put some paint on, and the whole thing would just, it would be like blotting paper. People would never have heard of blotting paper either, but just a really, like sort of kitchen towel really, and I got more and more frustrated by that. And there was one thing about CS2 that you could rely on, that it would behave itself. This paper here, but and then I can't remember, one day I thought, oh, this is ridiculous. And I got my piece of paper, watercolour paper, and I stuck it on top of the rough sketch, or the finished sketch, and I put that on the window on a bright sunny day, and I drew through in pencil, and that seemed to work. And I thought, wait a minute. And so I built myself a light table, and I was kind of used to light tables because I used to work in screen printing, and we did a lot of stuff on light tables, so I knew about light tables. So I built a light table out of it was a seed propagating tray and a couple of fluorescent tubes stuck inside it. Oh, wait a minute, I've done something wrong there, so I need to get it. See, I'm not concentrating. So I'm going to do that. I'll bring that down about there. I'll have to get rid of that on Photoshop. And then what I did was, then I got my finished rough, I put it on the light table, I put a piece of paper on the top, sketched straight through, cutting out a huge number of steps, so speeding the process up, and then went to paint it, and the paper behaved exactly as I wanted it to, because it hadn't had all this tons of water on and had all the size, which sort of keeps the fibres together, hadn't had all the size sort of washed out of it. And so suddenly this became my new way of doing things. And also I do my illustrations, the way I illustrate is very, very tight to the text, and so I want to know that that the illustrations are going to be very tight to the text and going to kind of really fit. What's gone on there? I'm not sure about that line. I'll have to get rid of that in Photoshop too. For me, it was a win-win situation. And then when I first sort of showed doing this on YouTube, once somebody went, "Oh, that's cheating," and then I kind of suddenly discovered, you know, from discussing it, that I'm going to change that angle there, that kids these days don't know how to trace, and I was thinking back to my kids when they were in school, and how they get given photocopied sheets to colour in, of maps and diagrams and things like that, and that's all they're doing is colouring in, and so they're going la 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 la, colouring in. And you know, there's been this whole kind of mindfulness colouring in thing has happened, you know, in the last 10 years or something, and that's what it is. It's just a kind of a mindfulness process, and you're not learning anything by colouring in. And I realised then that when I was a kid, and we had Roneo. I don't know if anyone will remember Roneo. And sometimes we would get these sort of sheets which were it's too complicated to explain, and they had they smelled of spirit ink or something. Oh my goodness, we all used to sort of sniff them, which is a bit naughty. And we want that to be there, and so we had that sometimes, and that was a real special treat. But they were usually for exams or something like that, and we had to trace everything. So when we had homework and they said, you know, draw a map of Great Britain or something like that, then we would have to get out our atlas, and we would get actually toilet paper. We used to have this hard, shiny, crinkly toilet paper at school, and we would use this toilet paper as tracing paper, and then we would sort of trace the map, and then so you were drawing it once, then on the back you would kind of redraw it back to front over it, so that you're putting a graphite layer on there, so that then you can draw through it again. So you would draw through it again, so that's kind of the second definite time you've drawn around it, and then you would have to kind of firm it up on the page, so you draw it at least 3 times, and you were actually drawing it, and you were marking, you know, this is London, this is Scotland, this is England, this is Wales, and marking everything on the map. And you got to know where everything was on the map. If you're just colouring in something that's already been drawn for you and has all the major things marked for you already, you're not going to learn anything. And so I sort of did a video about showing how to trace in the old-fashioned way. And some people were like amazed. And I was amazed because they were amazed. And I shouldn't be doing this. I'm putting hatching in here, which I don't really want to do. Anyway, so and you know, and then some other people going, oh, that's cheating. That's cheating. You're copying other people's work. But it's fine if you're at school to trace, and in fact, it's really good if you're at school to trace and things like that, because you're not doing it for a living. But if you trace other people's work and you call it your own, that's what people don't like. But this is my own work that I'm copying. So there we go. That's my thing about tracing and copying, and why I do it. I do it because of keeping the integrity of the surface of the paper. So now I've traced that, I don't have to erase anything. I don't have to scuff up the surface of the paper. And that is the reason I do it. I got to get on. I got to do these other illustrations. I got to do my set number of illustrations for the day to meet my target to get this book illustrated by Thursday. Today's Sunday. If you've got any questions and comments you want to ask about this process of putting a children's book together, you know, write them in the comments box below, and I might answer your question tomorrow. In the meantime, keep watching. I'll see you tomorrow. You take care now. Bye bye.